This is problem number 1 for assessment number 1. It says find the domain and range of the function, and it gives you the function g of x equals root x squared minus 8x. Because this is a radical function, the first thing I want to do is I want to take the inside of the radical and I want to set it greater than or equal to 0. And I'm looking for the domain of the function when I'm doing that. And the reason I set it greater than or equal to 0, so x squared minus 8x greater than or equal to 0, the reason I set it greater than or equal to 0 is I know that I cannot take the radical of a negative number. I can take the radical of 0, but anything less than 0, I cannot take the radical of. So I need to take the inside and set it greater than or equal to 0 in order to solve for the x values that are going to give me a number inside the radical greater than or equal to 0. So the first thing I'll do is I factor out an x, and I get x minus 8 greater than or equal to 0. Now because this is an inequality, actually the first thing I should have done is I basically changed this inequality to just an equal sign. So I'm going to change that right here and just say that this is an equal sign, not a greater than or equal to sign. Because I'm looking for the roots, and then I'm going to assess the quadratic using a number line. So I'm using the equal sign. I can use the zero product property. So that says that if I have two things being multiplied, one of them has to be 0. So x equal two things being multiplied and they equal 0, one of them has to be 0. So x equals 0, or x minus 8 equals 0. Add the 8 over. So I've got x equal 8 or x equals 0. This is where I'll draw the number line. When I draw the number line, I'm going to mark 0 and 8 on the number line. And then I'm going to pick numbers to the left of 0. So like negative, let's use negative 1. We'll use 1 that's in the middle between 0 and 8. And we'll use 10 as a number that is larger than 8. Now I'm going to take those numbers, negative 1, 1, and 10, I'm going to plug them into my function right here. It says greater than or equal to 0. So I'm going to use the store key on my calculator. So I'm going to say negative 1, store it as x, and then I'm going to type in x squared minus 8x. Hit enter, and that's 9. So 9 is greater than or equal to 0, so this area on my number line gives me values that are greater than or equal to 0, so those values are going to work for the radical. Now I'm going to take 1 and I'm going to store it as x, and we'll grab that function again, and that gives me negative 7. So this area doesn't work for the radical function because that's giving me negative numbers which are not greater than or equal to 0. And then I choose 10 and I store that as x. And I grab the function one last time. I get a positive number, so these values work as well. And because it says equal to, the roots work. So 0 and 8 both work. So the domain of my function then is going to be negative infinity to 0, including 0, union 8 to infinity. So what's the range then of the function? Well, the range is what is output. So this is the inputs for the function. What's output for the function? Well, if what's inside the radical can't be negative, it has to be 0 or greater, then the smallest number that you can get for an output is 0. So the range for most radicals is going to be 0 to infinity. And the range for this radical is 0 to infinity.